Alright, I don't see anybody in the chat, but that's alright. We'll just go ahead and kick it off tonight. Thanks for joining me if you're watching and not in the chat. Tonight we are flying Las Vegas McCarran to Los Angeles International. Our route tonight, we're going the Boach 6 departure. I should probably start with, we're planning on taking off runway 25 right, then into the Boach 6 departure, the Heck transition, and then we're taking the River 3 arrival in to LAX. And we're expecting to land on, I believe it's 24 right that we're expecting. Yep, 24 right. We're flying American Airlines tonight with the One World livery and the x737 by EADT. We're also going to be using the Payware XFMC by, oh boy, I knew it last video and I'm not, it's Javier something. I keep wanting to say Royon, but that's the CRJ guy. So Javier Cortez, that's it. I knew it'd come to me eventually. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the airplane here. Well, let's flip over. In case you guys couldn't tell, I worked on a couple things over the last week since I last streamed. I built up a new overlay and I ended up branding myself with a new logo. Let me know what you guys think of that. So here we are. We're on the C terminal at Las Vegas McCarran in our wonderful X737. Sure is a looker of a model on the outside. Let's go ahead and get into the flight deck and get this thing set up, ready to go. Okay, we'll start with our before flight flows, just like always. We'll get a little bit of electrical power going on here. That way we can do everything else that we need. So right here we'll go battery on and then guarded. Standby power is guarded. We're not going to start the APU just yet since we're at a gate. They're supplying us with external power, and to do that we're going to hit that button right there. Now we've got the ground power available light, and then flip that to on. And now we've got ground power. All the instruments down here have begun to come to life. And we'll continue with the overhead setup. We don't need any fuel pumps right now since we're not using APU power. Windshield wipers are off. All the generators are off since we're on ground power. Go ahead and flip the no smoking sign to on and the seatbelt sign to on once passengers begin to board. We'll also turn on the cabin power and the seat power. Flip over the monitor to the battery and we can check that the battery has sufficient voltage. That's 29 volts DC. And then on the AC meter, we'll flip over to the APU gen. That way once we flip that on, we can verify that we've got good power. Over here, the window heat can come on. 1, 2, 3, and 4 window heats. And actually, I'll just go ahead and flip over to the proper view. That way you guys can actually see what I'm up to. Voice recorder is in auto. We'll set up the temperature controllers just a little bit on the warm side. I've noticed that sometimes if you run them in the straight up and down auto, it tends to be a little bit chilly in the cabin. And then we'll flip this over to monitor the forward passenger cabin. Recirc fans are off for now. Isolation valve is in auto. We'll turn the right pack off. Left pack is in auto. And the bleeds are, the engine bleeds are on. The APU bleed is off. We're not going to touch the pressurization. Since I talked about that a little bit last time. I've seen it happen where if you adjust this knob before you have any bleed air, some bad things can happen with the pressurization in the cabin, and then you have to run it manual, and it is quite the chore, so we're just going to go ahead and leave that alone for now. As far as the lights go, we can leave the landing lights all off, runway turn off and taxi lights off, APU's off, start switches are off, and the igniter is on both right now. Logo lights, we can flip those on. Position lights to steady since the aircraft has power. Anti-collision is off. Wing lights off. Wheel well light, we'll flip that on. That's for the walk around. And actually we can probably put the wing lights on for that purpose as well. To continue our pre-flight setup, we're going to go ahead and fuel her up. Right here is the click spot. In case you didn't know about that, the click spot here. Make a fuel request. And we're going to input the amount of fuel, and per sim brief, we're going to load 11,373. Oh, that is in kilograms. Oh boy, I forgot to change the in the aircraft config files for each of these airplanes, each of the liveries, I should say, you can change whether this is kilograms or pounds, and I did not switch that, so I'm going to have to convert real quick here. Let's see. I need 11,873 kilograms to pounds. Sorry, pounds to kilograms, rather. That's 5386 per Google, so we'll go 5386 and do it just a quick refuel. That way we don't have to sit here and wait. Okay, so that takes care of the fueling. We'll switch down here. Normally we would check the oxygen per the flows, but that's not simulated in the X737. We'll move up. All of our display lighting, I believe, is as we want it. All of our nav displays are good. We can turn the background light up just a little bit, since we'll probably need that. I think coming into LAX, we're going to catch just a little bit of the sunset, which should be pretty cool. Our panel switching is all good. We're going to do a light test. We'll flip that right there to test, and we just look quickly around the cockpit, the flight deck, and make sure that all of the lights that should be illuminated, or that have bulbs in them, are illuminated, and they are. So we'll call that good. Go ahead and back to off. Just so we're ready for it, we'll flip over to plan mode and then drop the range down to maybe 20 or so. Now's a good time. We can check the weather. We're going to go ahead and use our XP NOAA weather METAR query for KLAS, since we're not flying online. This is synced up with VATSIM weather though, so we're going to get all the real turbulence levels and all the winds and all that stuff are all put in by XP NOAA weather, which is a great add-on, and it's all free, so if you don't have that already, go check it out. Looks like KLAS on the 2nd at 2356 Zulu, which is, well, that was a little over an hour ago, so I'm sure the weather's going to update on us here quickly. 10 statute my visibility, a few clouds at 11,000 feet, temperatures 29, dew point -13, altimeter 29er74. So we're going to go ahead and go 29er74. In the sim environment, it's really not critical, but we're going to go ahead and set the standby down here to 29er74 as well. We're going to ignore the rest of the glare shield for the moment. We're actually going to scoot down just a little bit, make sure we're all good to go up here. The V-speed bugs, those will all be set by XFMC, so we'll do that once we do the FMC initialization. Everything else looks okay. Sorry, I'm really used to using TrackIR, guys, so I try to set up a couple views, maybe to make it better, and I keep forgetting to use them. So I believe 2, that's the FMC, and then 3, that's the pedestal. So we'll come down here and we'll do our test for the fire system. Slide this little test knob right here over to the left. We get a fault and APU detect inop, and that's a pass for that test. And then slide it over to the right. We hear the fire bells, all 3 fire indications light up. That's a pass. We'll put that back. Make sure that we don't have anything up here going on. We'll go ahead and clear the master caution. And then we'll test the fire extinguisher system. So we'll go left, 3 green, and then over to the right, 3 green. That's a pass. Okay. All set up down there. Since we're not flying online, we're going to go ahead and just squawk 2000. And once we get everything, all the engines spooled up and everything, we'll switch over to TA, because Las Vegas here uses ASDEX. And that's just an advanced ground radar type of thing that they can use to help control if the visibility is poor or in times of high traffic or anything like that. Okay, I think that takes care of the pre-flight checks. And we can go ahead and do the pre-flight checklist. Fire warning and overheat has been checked. Start levers are cut off. The stabilizer trim cutout is in the normal position. And the lights have been checked. And that's it for the pre-flight checklist complete. We'll go ahead and do the FMC initialization. So click on the FMC button. We see the ident page. Everything here looks good. We've got the current AirAx 1610. And then we'll go over to pause init. We're going to go ahead and type in Kilo Lima Alpha Sierra KLAS into the ref airport. It's going to pause for just a brief second while that loads the database in. And we see that there's our GPS position already put in. We can go and go to the route page, and then our destination is Kilo Lima Alpha X-Ray Los Angeles International. Pop that into destination. Again, just a short pause, and everything's loaded up. Then we go to activate and execute. Over to the route page, we can see all we have in there right now is all direct to, so we're going to go ahead and do the departure arrival button. Los Angeles departure, as we said, we're planning on 25 right, and since we don't have ATC, we're just going to go ahead and take 25 right. The winds are favorable for 25 right, so we'll go that way, and it's a nice short taxi for us, to be honest with you. And then the Boach 6 with the HEC transition. I forgot to look up what that actually is. I think it's Hector is the VOR. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, HEC transition. Execute that. And the departure arrival button again. And then KLAX arrival. We're planning on the ILS for 24 right. ILS 24 right river. And the River 3 Hector transition. And execute that. Now we'll go to the legs page and check everything out. We have 2 rivers in there, it looks like, so we'll go ahead and select this one, move it to there, and execute. That'll take just a minute. And everything there looks good. So we can go ahead, and since we already set ourselves in plan mode with a range of 20, we'll just come down here and go step with the lower right line select key and step through. Make sure everything makes sense. And indeed it does, and there's the missed approach procedure there. So we'll go back to the legs page. Flip ourselves back to map, get rid of the airports. I've noticed that sometimes having the airports enabled decreases your performance just a little bit. So to squeeze every little bit out of here while I'm streaming, I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. Now we can go back to the init ref, and we're going to do the performance initialization. Today we are, I should look over here. And our takeoff weight is estimated from SimBrief to be 145,600 pounds. So we'll set that up. $147. That's close enough for me. And if we hit that button right next to the gross weight there, that'll fill in all the zero fuel for us and everything. Reserves today, we're going to go with 5,000. Cost index per SimBrief is 17. And we are planning on going all the way up to flight level 280. If we go over to the N1 limit, we're going to derate the takeoff 10% since we've got a nice long runway. And then full climb power armed. Hit the takeoff button. We're going to do flaps 5 takeoff, and then our V speeds are given here. V1 136, rotate 143, V2 148. We're going to go ahead and hit the exec button just a couple of times to make sure that really sticks in there. And then we'll finish setting up the glare shield. Since we are, let me flip over and show you guys the departure here. There's the ground chart for Vegas. We're in the Boach 6 RNAV, so there's the chart for that. We'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit for you there. We're planning on 25 right, so it looks like runway heading. And then we're going to turn left to intercept. Oops. Runway heading is 255, and we're going to go direct Rebel. And then turn left to heading 186, or I should technically say track 186, and then we're flying to Roper, and then we'll continue the departure out. Roper does have a top altitude restriction of 7,000, so we really should put that into the glare shield. But I believe, since I don't think we have any top restrictions after that. No, the next one is Boach here, which is 13,000 or above. So we're going to go ahead and skip that. We'll make sure that we comply with it, but we're not going to put it into the MCP. Flip you back to the sim. Okay, so we're going to go, the climb speed out of here is going to be, we're going to set that V2, which we said is 148. And that'll automatically, once we get going and put it into VNAV, that'll hold V2 plus 20 for us. Heading, runway heading, we said was 255. And the altitude, we're going all the way up to 28,000, flight level 280. All good there. Flight director on, flight director on. My side is the master. That's also the toga click spot. I mentioned it last time, but in case anyone hasn't seen that, if you don't have a toga button mapped, that little green master indicator right in there, if you click that, that's the toga. We'll go ahead and arm LNAV because we can. And I believe that basically gets us ready. Oh, we need to go ahead and start up the APU. If I can remember what the button is. There we are. Okay. We'll go forward left pump on. Low pressure light is extinguished, and then the APU2 on. And start. Hold it for 3 seconds. We should watch the EGT come up. There it goes. And we're looking for a peak. And there's the peak. It didn't run away from us. If it did, that would be a hot start on the APU, and we'd have to shut it off and potentially put out any fires that we had back there. But that's not the case today, so we're good. APU generator off bus lights, so we can go ahead and go on. Now we're on APU power. We'll flip down here real quick and start a timer. We can't open the bleeds for 1 minute, so we got to let this warm up for 1 minute before we go with the bleeds. Ground power, meanwhile, we're done with that, so ground power off and then disconnected. We'll do the rest of the before start flow. Yaw damper comes on. Alternate flaps is guarded. Navigation transfer and display switches are all in the center normal position. Fuel pumps all on to get ready for the start. Electrical, battery voltage is good. AC, the AC monitor is looking at the APU generator, and that's putting out good power, so we're going to leave that there. 400 hertz and 113 AC volts. Ground power is off and disconnected. Windshield wipers are off. Panel lighting, I'll turn this up a little bit because we're going to need it, I'm sure. Equipment cooling and supply and exhaust switches are on normal. Emergency exit lights are guarded. The no smoking sign is on. Fasten seatbelts are on. Engine start switches. Since today is an even day, we're going to go ahead and go ignition left. Probe heat comes on. Hydraulic pump B comes on. We leave A off. The engine switches are on. That won't matter until the engines are turning, so we can leave that the way it is. Anti-collision light comes on. The air setup, we're monitoring the forward cabin. It's a little warm in there, so actually we can dial that back just a little bit on the temperature. Recirc fans, both to auto. Packs are going to be off for the start. We won't flip them off until we actually get ready to start. That's just for passenger comfort. I'm sure that our 1 minute is up, and it is. We'll stop and reset that timer. Head back up here. APU bleeds on. Got the dual bleed light, and we have good pack pressure. Pressurization, we'll flip this down to our cruise of 280. Landing, we're going to leave it 0 because LAX is, well, it's pretty close to 0. And I believe that does it for the before start. So we can go before start checklist. Oxygen mass and quantity has been checked. It's not simulated. EEC is on. Nav transfer switches are normal. Display switches are auto. Fuel, center pumps are off, and the quantity has been checked. We're at 5,300 kilograms, which we computed is more than enough or 11,000 pounds that we require. Passenger signs are on. The window heats are on. Hydraulic pump A off, B on. Pressurization panel has been set for our cruise altitude at flight level 280 and landing altitude of 0. Flight instruments, we're going to go ahead and cross-check those. Heading 054, heading 054, altimeter 2974. Normally I don't bother with the first officer side, but just for completeness sake, we'll go ahead and put that to 2974 as well. If I can get it to stick. There it is. And so the altimeters are cross-checked. Auto brake we'll set up to RTO right there in the middle. Takeoff warning horn, we'll check that because we forgot to. In this configuration, if we advance the thrust levers forward, we should hear an audible alarm since we don't have takeoff flap set and a number of other things. There's the alarm. So thrust levers back to idle. Parking brake is set, and the aileron and rudder trim are centered. And that's the before start checklist complete. We'll go ahead and call up ground for a push here. Just using ground services, the basic add-on that comes if you get the .NET installer for XP NOAA weather. This comes packaged and it does the job just fine. We'll go ahead and request a pushback. We're only going to head back 40 meters, 90 degrees, and we want to go nose right. And we'll go ahead and request that up. Just about out of here, guys. Should be a nice sunset flight. We're flying pretty much directly into the sun, so hopefully it's not blinding or anything, but we'll see.
N908NN pushback ready. Please release park brakes.
Release parking brakes. So brakes released. The gate's going to pull away, and back we go. In the meantime, that means we are cleared to start, so we'll pop up here. Packs come off. And we have sufficient bleed air pressure, so we can start number 2. Looking for 25% on the N2 to introduce fuel. %, fuel in. EGT rising. And the peak, 524.
N908NN pushback finalized.
Pushback's complete. Setting the parking brakes. And 56%, there's the start valve open is gone, so we can go ahead and start 1. Ground equipment is all clear. Good to go. Starting 1. And 25% fuel in. EGT rising. Oil pressure is good. Looking for the peak. 528. And on its way back down. That's a good start. Wait for the start valve to close, and then we'll do the after start flow. I can't see viewers or anything. I don't see anyone in the chat, but if anyone's watching, you guys doing good tonight? All good? FCC Mac? Got a beer. I'm already a couple in. Okay. There's the starters. So now we can go to ignitions to both and continuous for the takeoff. Taxi light can come on. Generators on the bus. APU generator is off. Leads are good. Packs back on to auto. Isolation valve is in auto. And since we have good bleed air coming from the engines, we will turn the APU off. It looks like pretty much everything else is set up. We can go with the last hydraulic system. Hydraulic system A comes on. Pressurization is still good. Runway turnoffs. We'll drop flaps 5. 1, 2, 5. And the before taxi checklist. Electrical Gen 1 and 2 are online. Probe heat is on, which we turned that on a little prematurely. That's okay. Anti-ice not required today. Nice and warm in Vegas. Start switches are both and continuous. Flight controls we need to check. Full left, full right, full up, full down, center, rudder left, rudder right, tap the brakes, good to go. And flaps, we are asking for flaps 5 and showing flaps 5 with the green light. So the before taxi checklist is complete. What we're going to do here, we're going to pull up the ground chart for you guys here real quick. Here's the ground chart for Vegas. We are right about here. We just push back with our nose and we're kind of facing down to the south here. So we're going to head out and we're just going to take Charlie all the way down to 25 right. So we'll flip back to the sim. Last time I did that I forgot to flip back, so we got her this time. Okay, we'll drop the range on the ND down to 10 and we'll go ahead and let off the brakes, spool it up a little bit. Gonna check the audio real quick, guys. Hopefully you'll be able to hear that. Oh yeah, we're gonna get a nice, I think we're actually gonna miss sunset a little bit here, but it's gonna be a nice nighttime arrival into LAX. We got some freeware scenery for both Vegas and LAX. I just got it off of xplane.org. I don't remember who the authors are. I'd really like to give you guys credit because it's killer for freeware for sure. And then I'm supplementing that with a bunch of ortho for XP stuff that I made up at Zoom level 17. Alright, coming up on this intersection, this should be Charlie off to the left, so we'll just swing over that way, follow the green lights. If there's one thing that X-Plane does really, really well, guys, it's night lighting. And hopefully this video will get to show that off just a little bit. That reminds me, I should probably put Real Terra Haze over to the correct settings, so we get a little more realistic lighting going on here. Then if we want to later, we can flip it over to the extra dramatic city lights, and it's pretty spectacular. I don't think it looks all that real, but pretty good stuff. Over there to the left, that's the satellite terminal, Delta, and that's pretty much exclusively Delta's terminal, as you can see by all the nice static aircraft that are populated over there. Big Delta birds. We go and arm the auto throttle at this point as well. Cancel the auto throttle warning. We're looking at, according to SimBrief, we're looking at an estimated flight time here of about 1 hour and 15 minutes. I kind of checked some of the winds. That looks to be about correct. Hopefully we'll make it a little faster. We'll just kind of have to play it by ear. Double check in here that everything's all set up. We'll maybe turn the background lighting down a little bit. That looks a little better. How's the view for you guys? Is that, let me see. Maybe that's a little better. I keep forgetting I'm running this on an ultra wide monitor, so I'm running at 2560 by 1080. But I've got OBS Studio here cropping that down to 1920 by 1080, and then we're scaling that again to 720p, just for the sake of everyone having a pleasant viewing experience with not a whole lot of buffering. I'd like to get up to 1080, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that until we get some viewers on here, with the way Twitch likes to distribute all of its bandwidth. I've got plenty of upload speed, but well, we'll get there when we get there. How about that, guys? Nice safe taxi. 15 knots. Let's speed that up a little bit. Flip over my charts here. And just to go over the departure one more time, runway heading 255. We're taking that out direct Rebel, and then we're turning left to heading 186, going direct Roper, and then we're on the rest of the Boach departure out of Vegas McCarran. Anyone who's just joining, we are flying Vegas McCarran all the way down to Los Angeles International. Nice short little 1 hour and maybe 10 minutes-ish flight. Approaching the end of the taxiway here, we're going to go ahead and give the flight attendants a ding. Let them know to have a seat, please. And we're coming up on the hold short for 25 right. That's verified out the window here. And we're going to hold short here, and we'll make sure we're ready to go. Before takeoff, we'll go ahead and flip all the landing lights on. All the lights are all set the way we want them. We've got pretty much every light we've got on this thing. We'll actually turn the wheel well lights off because they're pretty well useless. Packs, we're going to leave where they're at. Flaps are set for 5 with the green light. And pressurization is all set up. Good to go there. The cabin is nice and steady, not climbing or descending. And again, forgot the transponder when we left the gate, so we'll flip that to TARA at this moment. And then check the recall. All good. Okay, before takeoff checklist. Attendant notification has been completed. The transponder is in TARA mode. Packs are on. Bleeds are set, all 3. APU is not online and not required, and the recall has been checked. That's the before takeoff checklist. Let's go ahead and line up on the runway here. Make the final. It's clear. Okay, we're lined up on the runway. One more drink. Okay. Speed Speed brakes are down. Just had to double check a couple things there with the key setup. Okay, advance power to 50%. Stable. Release the brakes. Power full forward. And toga. Power is set. Your speed's alive. 80 knots. Checked. V1. Rotate.
V2.
Positive rate. Gear up. Ooh, a little windy. Holding just a little bit of right rudder in there. VNAV. There's climb thrust. And nice and windy coming out of here. There's acceleration height. We're going to nose down and start bringing the flaps in. Flaps 1. Flaps up. Command A. And now we're on the autopilot. Okay, we'll do the climb checklist now. Pressurization. Looks good. Cabin is climbing just ever so slightly. Recirc fans are on. Packs are in auto. Start switches are continuous until 10,000 feet. APU is not required. And the flaps are up with no lights. That's the climb checklist. And now we're just on the Boat 6 departure out of Vegas. Looks like we're hitting an altitude and speed constraint, which we should be. That's 7,000 feet, which is our constraint, and that is at 250 knots. So the throttles have pulled back, and we're going to hold that until, let's see, it looks like Roper, and that's coming up here in about 3 miles. So we'll just let it do its thing. FMC speed, VNAV speed. The throttles have advanced, and now we're back into climb at 250 knots. Lovely view of Vegas on the departure. Approaching 10,000 feet, we're going to go ahead and pull in the retractable landing lights. Let's go ahead and do that now. Retractable landing lights come on. Runway turnoffs come off. Taxi light comes off. Ignition's to off. Check the pressurization again. And actually, let's flip up to the nice overhead view. Pressurization looks good. We're at a cabin climb at about 700 feet per minute. Cabin altitude is just shy of 4,000 feet. Everything looks good there. Cabin temperature, a little on the cool side, so we'll go up just a touch. I'm not even sure if that's simulated, to be honest with you, but if it is, we're doing it. 10,000 feet, we'll also go ahead and ding the cabin. And I just got a MCP. It doesn't look like it was anything important. Range back out to, let's go with 40 nautical miles. That ought to be sufficient. As I said in the last video here, this thing really likes to just completely blow speed restrictions all the time. You can see it's commanding 280 knots, the FMC is, and it shot all the way up. It hit like 295 or so. On its way back down though. Nice 41 knot crossing a headwind, so that's not doing any favors for our ground speed. Hopefully we'll be able to get up to cruise speed here before too long, and then off into the sunset we go. Pretty much the last remaining thing that we have here is we're going to set the altimeters to standard baro at 18,000 feet. That's the transition level here in the United States. It varies across the world, and in some places even airport to airport has their own transition level, which I find pretty strange, but that's the way it's done. So again, here in the US it's standard of 18,000 feet. Flight level 180. We'll switch that over to 29902, and that's just to ensure vertical separation for the bigger airliners that fly up there. That ensures that everyone's kind of on the same playing field, because that altimeter, forgive me if I'm boring anybody, but I kind of felt like this channel would be aimed a little more at some of the more beginning type guys. That altimeter is basically a reference for the barometric altimeter that your plane has. It reads your altitude out based on the air pressure, the static air pressure, and whatever you dial in that little on other small airplanes it's called a Colesman window. Whatever you put in there, that'll change what the altimeter actually reads in feet, and that allows you, when you're close to the ground, you can set it to the local barometric pressure, and that'll tell you more reliably how far above the ground you are. Once you're at 18,000 feet, your distance above the ground really doesn't matter as much as keeping you separated from other aircraft, and so they switch everyone over to the standard of 2992, and that makes sure that anyone who's flying at these altitudes, and there's the standard there, anyone flying at these higher altitudes is going to be on the same playing field. So if someone says they're at 20,000 feet, flight level 200, they're going to be at the same 20,000 feet as another guy that says, I'm at 20,000 feet as well. And that just aids the controllers in providing that vertical separation. Time for a drink, huh? That ding, I'm not entirely sure what that was. It must mean we're getting close to top of climb. Let's acknowledge it. Yeah, that's probably what that was, 15 miles to top of climb. Really, we ought to be keeping that heading bug synced up, so we'll swing that over to heading 215. And unfortunately, I wasn't planning on it being quite this bad. We've got a 59 knot headwind, and it's pretty much straight. Ooh, excuse me. That's pretty much straight at us. So that is just murdering our ground speed right now. We're showing 384 knots true airspeed, and only 324 across the ground, which is pretty pathetic. This might lengthen our flight out just a little bit. That's okay. I don't have to work till 7 tomorrow, so. Woo. To be missing anything. Just making sure Chatty was set up alright. I don't want to be missing anybody's questions. Alright, coming into some turbulence now. Kind of expected that, looking at the prog charts. No big deal, nothing the 737 can't handle. Heading 216. I failed to read American's SOP on this, and to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's available, but we could probably go ahead and turn the landing lights off at this point as well. So now we're just on just the logo light. Forgot the strobes. Whoops. Anti-collision light and the wing lights are on. Sunset. I think I got the frame rate problem solved. This is much more fluid than my last broadcast for sure. At least it definitely is on my end. I hope you guys are experiencing the same thing. You know, as I say that, then I have a scenery load. Treat ourselves to a passenger wing view for a little bit. How about that? Getting close to cruise here. 26,300. Before too long, we'll be able to start thinking about the descent. Again, though, with this ground speed the way it is, I think it might be a little longer than I had planned. I think I'm going to review the footage after this and make sure it's good enough, but I think I might slap this on YouTube. So anyone who's watching on YouTube right now, feel free to comment below. I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. I'm working 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mountain right now, so I can't do anything at work, but after I get off, I'll be sure to check and see if anyone has any comments or questions or concerns or anything like that. And if you guys have any ideas for improving the stream, or for the videos on YouTube, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do anything that I can. Here for you guys. And we're acquiring our cruise altitude, flight level 280. Throttles have come back, and we're going to settle into a nice cruise at looks like Mach 0.83. No, Mach 0.77. A little bit of a bug there in the aircraft. I'm not sure if you guys saw that down here on the primary flight display. It couldn't make up its mind whether it wanted to cruise at 0.83 or 0.77. I think 0.83 is pretty close to barber pole. Good lord. So the engines have accelerated up now. They're hitting the cruise limit of 91.5 on the N1. We're gonna reach that target cruise of Mach 0.77. That's what the FMC has calculated to be the most efficient cruise for us. Looks like about 35 miles to Hector. Can confirm that. Yep, 38 miles to Hector. Top of descent is going to be in 42, 63, 63 miles-ish. Forgot to switch that over. Oh well. No big deal. Head back outside again. It's plain at night. Beautiful. Not much to see out in the desert though, is there? Okay, looks like we've pretty well settled into the cruise. The turbulence isn't anything that I would say is extraordinary. We'll go ahead and release the cabin now. If it gets bad again, we'll go ahead and flip that back on. The wife has a couple friends over tonight. They're watching a movie and having a bit of wine. So if you can hear any of that, I apologize. But if not, no big deal. They're having fun. We're having fun, right? Everything's good. I'm going to go ahead and flip the charts over to the River 3 arrival. That's what we're planning on taking in here today. And we're coming from Hector, so let me flip that over to the charts here. We're going to be coming in, there's Hector, and then we've got Dipso into Graham between flight level 210 and 17,000 feet. No constraints at rust. Habso above 14,000. River between 12 and 14,000. And then after that, we're headed onto the ILS for 24 right. So pretty simple arrival. We don't really have much to worry about in the way of altitude constraints. This one's going to be real easy to make since we're already at 28,000. That's what's kind of delayed our top of descent. It's probably going to be in this neighborhood. Well, probably more like about here. Or so. That way we can squeeze in between these two altitudes. We don't have to worry about being above 14 there and then above 12 there. That's really the only one that's going to be a little bit concerning, but I think we're going to make that just fine. And then we're into the ILS 24 right, which we'll pull up now. And that's got us coming from River. That's our initial approach fix here is River. Jaksev, and Minza, Skull, Decker, Bria, Palak, Mercy, and then we're on the ILS, Jetsa and Arby. Looks like the minimums today we're classified as Cat C, and we're going to be just doing the Cat 1 ILS. So that's altimeter 330 or 200 feet above the ground. That's our minimum. So we can't go below that without having some sort of visual contact with the runway or the runway environment. So that includes like approach lights or anything like that. The weather in Los Angeles right now is fantastic, so not terribly concerned about that. That pretty much covers the arrival. So we'll switch back here. That's the River 3. We'll zoom out just a little bit. And then put you guys back in the sim. It's like about 30 miles to top of descent now. We'll check that. Yeah, pretty close to 30. I wish I had some fun stuff for you guys. There's hey, Marlos B, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. Just as I say, I wish we had something fun to talk about. Someone hops in the chat. Anything on your mind there, Marlos? Go ahead and sync up our heading bug here. Dial that back, heading 213. Hey, right on, man. Me either. I've got to ran through everything I was going to talk about tonight. We're just getting ready for descent here. We got about 20 miles to top of descent, so we'll go ahead and start setting up the glare shield. Oh, my settings in my first video, they were all sorts of messed up. I was trying to use XSplit for my streaming, and that was just murdering my CPU usage. And that in turn, it really it took a toll on the performance of X-Plane, and it made my last video pretty much unwatchable in my opinion. So I think we did quite a bit better this time. Graphics look good, frame rates are good. I'm streaming at it's like 720p and 30 frames, and hopefully everything looks good. So we'll take that altitude down to let's see what the intercept is here for 24 right. Looks like the intercept is 4,000 feet, so we'll dial that altitude down to 4,000. That heading bug over just a little bit there, that way we're synced up. Heading 208. Altitude's good. We'll go ahead and arm auto brake level 2. Punch in at ref and then approach. And for a gross weight of 144, we're looking at a flaps 30 VREF of 160. Well, boy, that seems really fast. It must be a little heavier than I thought. Copy that. 161 knots it is. Okay. We'll double check that when we get a little closer. How about that? At this point, we should probably also set up the... we should probably also set up... Oh boy, don't do that. We should also set up our radios. And it looks like the ILS is going to be on 108.5 with a course of 251, so that's all set up and ready to go. Coming up on top of descent here. Seatbelt sign goes to on. Ping the cabin, let them know we're about to descend. And then we'll keep an eye on that pressurization right there. Looking for a nice slow descent from our cabin altitude, which currently is about 8,000 feet. We're going to let that go all the way back down to pretty much sea level. Our landing altitude is 0 feet. We'll take this opportunity to get the weather as well. XP NOAA METAR query. KLAS. And it looks like 0053 Zulu, which is about an hour ago. Winds 270 at 16 knots. Ooh, a little breezy down there. Good visibility, 10 miles. Few clouds at 1,600. Few clouds at 3,200. Temperature is 20. Dew point is 13. Altimeter is standard 2992. Perfect. Have I thought about getting the IXCG733? Yes, I have. It's a little on the spendy side. I'm kind of, I don't know. Not that it's not worth it. I've seen nothing but good things about it. I kind of wanted to check out and see what EADT had going for him here, and this thing is crazy for freeware. I mean, it's kind of like a necessity to be buying the the FMC, the 20 euro FMC. But for the most part, this thing does plenty. And that 733, it's a classic liner. I'm just not huge into the classic stuff. I'd have to relearn how to fly again. This is one thing that this particular aircraft likes to do. It likes to really slow down, so we're going to have to go with the speed intervene here. Change over to Mach, and then we'll descend at Mach 0.68. And that's about 280 knots, which is perfect. So we'll actually just switch that back over and go descend at 280 knots. The FMC, for some reason, its econ descent rate tends to be 260, 261 knots, which is crazy, crazy slow. We need to really be keeping that speed up. So I found every time I've descended this plane, I have to go speed intervene and then dial the speed back up to 280 or so. And if you're coming down from a higher altitude, it should be, better than that as well. In turn, parts of that, the VNAV calculation is all based on that speed as well, that 261 or 262 knots. So when you speed it up, the VNAV doesn't recalculate its descent profile, and so it ends up burning more fuel. It's just kind of an unfortunate little thing we have to deal with this plane. I am certain that the IXCG does not do that. There's plenty of the big streamers like to fly that. I'll get into it one of these days. Do you sim with X-Plane there, Marlos? And P3D. Nice. I tried DCS out. I don't know. That was like a year ago. I tried DCS and I couldn't get into it because I didn't buy any. I didn't buy any of the airplanes for it, the aircraft, the add-ons, I should say. So I had the whatever it comes free with. It's the Russian plane, and I couldn't make heads or tails of the cockpit at all because it's all in Russian. I'm sure there were some manuals that I could have found, but I just never got into it. I've heard it's pretty cool though. As far as P3D goes, I use FSX every once in a while, and I don't know. I got real tired of the crashes, to be honest with you. I've heard P3D is a much better product in that regards. It is, yeah. I'm still concerned with the memory limits, and I think that's one of the big things that was killing my simming with FSX is I was running into vast problems running, the good add-ons, the PMDG stuff, and then once you start putting in custom scenery and you start flying long haul routes and all that, I was hitting out of memory errors more often than I like to. So I was like, well, what's this X-Plane all about? It's 64-bit, so let's check it out. I've loved it since. It's missing a lot of the cool payware stuff, from FSX. The real quality add-ons. I find a lot of the aircraft in X-Plane really lacking. As far as you can't find anything that's PMDG except for I think PMDG. I forget what the one aircraft that they put out, but it's an ancient prop liner. That's just not really my thing. Sync that heading bug up. 227. Got the courses for the ILS set in, 251. We'll switch the radios over here before too long. This is a nice straight in approach, or arrival I should say. This river arrival is going to put us right here, which is also then the segue into the, I should say transition probably, into the actual approach, which is all just boom, nice straight in here. You fly mostly GA and X-Plane? Yeah, I find the GA stuff in X-Plane is pretty killer. I fly the, what is it, the Alabeo DA42, the Twin Star. I think that's, you know, awesome. It's got the G1000 in it, which, yeah, it's not a real G1000. Everyone knows it's not a real G1000, but it is kind of the closest that we've got right now, and I don't think it does a terrible job at it. And as far as the scenery and stuff goes, I just don't think you can beat GA flying in X-Plane. FSX, it's, you know, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. I had a blast with it, but I think X-Plane just knocks it out of the park. Sync that heading up, 245. Looking good on the speed. We can get out of the standard barometer. We just passed, but we're staying at 299 or 2. So, oops. Come on, click spots. That's the one thing that I really miss about FSX is scroll wheel stuff. Some of the airplanes in X-Plane are doing it these days, but it's not nearly as many as I'd like. And some of the planes that do have it just don't really do it all that well, to be honest with you. We'll fix landing lights on. And now we're down below 18,000 feet. We can go ahead and do the descent checklist as well. Altimeters are cross-checked. VREF and target, we set that. I'm not sure that I quite buy any of it, but there's the init page, and we'll go approach. Gross weight 143.7. That's close enough for me. It says 161 on the approach. We'll fly 161. We'll see what happens, I guess. If we come in just crazy hot, then we know what it was. Packs are in auto. Start switches. We'll wait until we get down to 10,000 feet, then we'll put those into continuous. And the recall is checked. And that's the descent checklist complete. I've seen a number of people, kind of hating on this thing, the EADT x737, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out why. It has some quirks for sure. The autopilot is not fantastic, but then again, it's pretty on par with a lot of the stuff that we see in some of the X-Plane, airliners. VNAV calculations, it's not perfect, but it works. It works pretty well. Like right now, River, our crossing restriction at River was, I gotta pull up the chart here, between 14 and 12, and we just hit 14. I'd say it's managing the restrictions really well. Is it doing it a little bit incorrectly? Yeah, kinda, but that's okay. We're at 13,000 feet. I'm getting ready to go. We'll take that speed intervene off here in just a few moments. That way we can slow ourselves down below 10,000 feet. Heavies and X-Plane is no fun. I don't know, man. I'm having a good time. We'll make sure we got the radios all set up here. We are looking for 108.5. So no, we're not. 108.5. 108.5. We'll switch those both over. Got nav 1 and 2. I'm not doing an auto land, but we'll just put it in. Pilot Edge, yeah, for sure. I've flown Pilot Edge before. I usually fly VATSIM, and I controlled for just a short time on VATSIM. That was a really fun experience, and I do miss flying on Pilot Edge quite a bit. Go ahead and take speed intervene off. I do miss flying on pilot edge quite a bit. And I'm thinking once I get a little more comfortable with the stream, that's kind of the next direction I'm going to go. We're going to hop on pilot edge and do some stuff there, especially with all the coverage area that's going to be expanded here before too long. I'm pretty excited for that stuff. Okay, FMC just dropped our speed down to 250. That's to hit the 250 at 10,000 feet restriction. I do wish, however, as glorious as this X-plane night lighting is, I really wish it would load up a little bit, further out. I've got all my draw details set as high as I possibly can, and it still, kind of comes in chunks. Like if I pop out, you can see the nice night lighting down below us, but this is Los Angeles, this whole area out here probably ought to be glowing like the sun, and it's not. 10,000 feet, or well, actually we're at 248 knots now, so we can drop the retractable landing lights out. Turn off lights come on. We'll leave the taxi lights off for now. Ignitions both, and over to continuous. Strobes are on. We'll leave those off for now. And we'll check the overhead here. Max are in auto. Landing altitude is set. Everything's all good there. I still haven't picked up on the ILS yet. Sync up that heading, 250. Still haven't picked up the ILS yet. And that's okay. We're still, plenty distance out here. I'm showing Mercy's 15 miles, and that's 16 miles from the airport. So we got plenty of time. We're going to keep that speed up as long as we can. Yeti koozie. If you're a beer guy, bottles, cans, doesn't matter. Yeti koozie's where it's at. Hey, right on, man. Enjoy your dinner. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. Stick around. Well, I guess if you hurry back, we should be able to be on the ground here in just a couple minutes. There's the field in sight. A little bit of a haze layer coming into LA here. Not too bad. Just a little bit of clouds. There's that night light popping in there. I really wish there were a way to, get those settings cranked up. I want to draw those lights, way out there. I'm not sure what we got going on over there. It kind of looks like a fireworks show, huh? Awesome, man. Really appreciate it. Okay, what do we got? I don't see the ILS signal popping in yet. I've got DME indication, but it's not identified. Yep, I don't see it yet. We're getting DME, but no signal yet, so we'll switch back for now. Oh, and there it comes. India Victor Whiskey Uniform, which is not the correct one. We're looking for India Oscar Sierra Sierra. We'll just keep on going where we're going for now. 20 miles out, we're going to go ahead and start slowing down. I have noticed that the FMC does not do that very well, so we're going to have to do that ourselves with a speed intervene, and then drop ourselves back to go back to 215 knots. There's India Oscar Sierra Sierra identified, so we can go VOR loc, arm that, and it should capture here before too long. Got a hollow diamond there on the PFD. So at least we're picking it up. That's good. Los Angeles International right ahead here. Nice and bright. $20 miles out. And there's the VOR captured. We're getting some glide slope information. We could theoretically descend on that glide slope, but we're not going to. Technically, we're just too far out for that to be accurate. So we're not going to trust it until we get into, what do we have here is the initial fix is 16 miles out. So I think we can probably trust it there. And we're close enough, right? Go ahead and go to approach mode. I did this last time. Okay, there's glide slope, arm single channel, MCP speed. All the speed back down. Drop the gear for some drag. And we'll go flaps 1. Speed down to 195 knots. Arm the speed brakes, and we've got the green light. Before landing checklist, speed brakes are armed in green light. Landing gear is down in 3 green. Flaps, we're standing by on the flaps. Right now we're at flaps 1. Flaps 5. Drop the range again. Sync that heading up, 251. Cleared to land, taxi light comes on. LA in all of its glory. Ten miles, we'll go down speed 175. Laps 15. Speed 160. We'll keep this up till 3 miles out, then we'll drop down to final approach. And actually, I think this is final approach speed, because of that thing we dealt with earlier. Yeah, it's showing 161 knots. I think that's just absolute insanity, but whatever. Auto throttle comes off. And we are good to go. We'll go to disconnect the autopilot. My aircraft. We're within 5 miles now. Flaps 30. Retrim. Stiff crosswind, huh? Well, we'll really put it to the test for you guys here. Landing. A little slow. Reversers out. And green, decel. Knots, reverse idle, and manual braking.
Until the seatbelt sign has been turned off and the aircraft has come to a complete stop at the gate. That will be your only indication that it's safe to get up and move about the cabin. We also ask that you keep the aisles clear of any carry-on baggage. This is the termination of our flight this morning, so we ask that you check seat back pockets, closets, and overhead bins for any articles.
Well, those ground textures are a little rough over there, aren't they?
Heavy articles may have shifted during our flight.
Reversers in.
Have a pleasant stay.
Flaps up. Speed brake in. Retractables off. Start the APU up. Alright, let's get our bearings here. We'll switch over to the ground chart. Looks like we're well beyond anything that we would want to consider parking at, so go ahead and say we're clear to cross 24 left here. Landings are on. We keep the strobes on since we're crossing what could be an active runway. I have absolutely no idea if this is a one-way taxiway in real life, but we are taking it. This is Echo. Landing lights come off. Keep the taxi and the runway turn-offs, and we go position lights to steady. Move all lights on, just because. So we're on Echo and crossing Echo 14 right now. Have a long taxi there, guys. Sorry about that. Wish I would have used up a little less runway. Missed the first high speed, but that's no big deal. Again, this is some freeware LAX scenery we got off of xplane.org. Superb stuff. Terminal's really well modeled. I think this is great. is Echo 12. We'll just keep on Echo here. Ooh, we've got a fork. Wasn't planning on a fork. That goes slightly off to the left. Alright, we'll take this opportunity to switch on to Delta. I don't think I could have picked a longer taxi. Doesn't help that I'm doing it slowly either, huh? Let's see here. Where can we park? Those look like big giant jets to me. Let's go this way. Runway turnoffs come off. And we will flip the taxi lights off. Heading for this gate over here. I couldn't even begin to tell you what it is, but there's yellow paint and a marshaller, so we're going. Okay, there we are. Up to the overhead. Make sure the APU gen is on the bus. APU is good. Bleed's good. Right pack comes off. And we're set up there. Now we'll go ahead and cut the fuel out. 1 and 2. Back to the overhead. Fasten seatbelt sign comes off. And parking brake on. And that is us at the gate. Should hopefully hit the auto gate here before too long. Once the engines are stopped. Okay, go to the overhead, make sure we're good here. Pitot heat comes off. Windshield heat off. Left pack's on. Recirc fans are on auto. The AP is running. We're simulating that we would be doing a short turnaround, but I think I'm done for the night. The aircraft still have power, so we'll go logo and the position lights on steady. APU is running. The switches, the ignition switches should go back to off. Generators on the APU. All that stuff looks good. Goddammer comes off. And transponder to standby. Standby. Flight directors are all off. Everything looks good there. So let's do the parking checklist. Parking brake has been set. Start levers are cut off. Fuel pumps, we forgot to turn those off. All except for the forward fuel pump comes off. Window and probe heats are off. Anti-ice is off. Hydraulic pumps, the electrics come off now. And the start switches are off. Oil quantity is checked and good, 90-91. Radar is off, and the transponder is on standby. Clear the master caution. That's the parking checklist complete. So this is the state we would leave it in if we were going to go ahead and turn it around and do another flight, but I think that's it for tonight, guys. I really appreciate everyone stopping by. I'm going to go ahead and double check the footage, make sure it's good enough, and if it was, I'm going to slap this on YouTube. So if you watched it live with me, thank you so much. Marlos, thanks for the conversation. Really appreciate it. Tell your friends if you want, man. If not, you know, whatever. YouTube guys, please comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff down below. I'll get back to you just as soon as I can if you have any messages for me or comments or anything like that. Again, FCC Mac, thanks for coming by.